Chapter 11, continuing on, again on page 328, we have biophilia, which is the importance that nature provides to humans. And when humans live in a big city and they don't get out in nature, we have a disease called nature deficit disorder. Make sure you know what both of these are for your next test. Conservation biology, searching for solutions. Down here, we have the equilibrium theory of island biogeography. You will do or have done this activity in the lab. And so when you are studying for your test, make sure you review the activity lab report when you are studying. Page 330. The Endangered Species Act was enacted in 1973 by the U.S. Congress. It describes if animals or plants are endangered, whether they are threatened, which is a less severe chance of becoming extinct, but they're still protected. So threatened species are still protected, you can't kill them, but they're not in immediate danger of becoming extinct. And I actually have this backwards, so let me change it. The provisions of the law. Now, provisions are basically, what does the law say? So the provisions, basically, the law says you can't kill endangered species. But not only that, you can't hurt the habitat of an endangered species. So in other words, if an endangered species lives in your backyard, in the trees in your backyard, you can't cut down those trees because it would hurt the habitat for the endangered species. You can't trade in endangered species parts, such as ivory, or the skins of animals like tigers, and you cannot also hurt the food supply of an endangered species. So for example, the brown-footed ferret is endangered, but you can't go out and hunt prairie dogs because the prairie dogs are the food for the black-footed ferret. So prairie dogs are not endangered, but you still can't go out and kill them because of the food supply of an endangered species. On the next page, we have habitat fragmentation. And even though there's patches of forests remaining, it's not enough to support certain species that need larger areas. And so with habitat fragmentation, your biodiversity will be lost, and some species will just go away because they require larger habitat. On page 332, we tested, or some scientists tested island biogeography theory, and they actually found out with just this one test that it actually worked for the theory. Now, theories have to be proven over and over and over again in order for them to become facts, and we just haven't had the multiple experiments to say it's a concept, not a theory at this time. National parks around the western United States are considered habitat islands. You may have grizzly bear populations up here in Glacier National Park and down here in Yellowstone National Park, but unless the two grizzly bear populations can reach each other, then they might be in trouble. They might not be able to breed and create enough genetic diversity. So sometimes we will build what's called a wildlife corridor that stretches between two habitat islands, and the wildlife can then travel between them and interbreed so you can increase your genetic diversity. Otherwise, what happens is the population of grizzlies here in Yellowstone will all breed with each other, and if there's only a few hundred, you might end up with some genetic problems. Some people hate the Endangered Species Act, and it's listed here. A lot of it is property rights advocates that do not like the Endangered Species Act. Some are opposed because if they're in the logging industry and they're trying to protect the spotted owl, they don't like that their jobs are gone. On this page also, make sure you know about captive breeding programs. This is page 334. And an example of a captive breeding program nearby is the California condors at the LA Zoo. On page 335, we've talked about wolves before and the reintroduction. There's been some opposition to reintroduction on page 335 in this paragraph, so make sure that you read and understand this part. Make sure you also know the definitions of an umbrella species and a flagship species. Make sure you know what CITES is. It's an international treaty to ban the transport of endangered species body parts. Like ivory, you cannot go to Africa, buy some ivory, and bring it into the U.S. It's illegal under CITES. You can't do it. On page 336, we have two definitions. You need to know what hotspots are, and you need to know what endemic means for your next test. And that is the end of chapter 11.